Hey everybody, Marcus with Unexplained Mississippi here, doing something a little different in this video. I'm going to do a deep dive on an event that occurred to me. I've done a video before, way back, and I did wrote a blog about it, called The Thing in the Road. And basically what I'm referring to this huge black cube-shaped object that was sitting in the middle of the road in this national forest where I was doing some Bigfooting at the time. This is the same national forest where I saw the juvenile Bigfoot kind of lean out and look down the road. I was just in that area a few weekends back, and that was the subject of my last video that I did. So I was right there in this thing's backyard, Sasquatch, whatever. This place is a very spooky and unusual place. There's lots of activity there. I've encountered lots of cryptid activity, but this black cube thing, the Sasquatch sighting aside, was by far the most bizarre and really the one of the most frightening things that's ever happened to me. So this happened on the third month, 26th date of 2022. Had to look at my notes there. So I arrived at the national forest, and I pull in and I check in. And as I'm looking down the road, I realize, looking down the dusty, kind of chalky road, that there's no tire tracks coming in or coming out. So I'm feeling pretty good that I'm there in the forest by myself, and I don't have to be overly worried about anybody coming up on me or causing some mischief or anything like that. So once I got checked in, I eased on down the road, and I drove the 10 or 15 minutes to this spot where I had been told that was a good spot for Bigfooting. I wasn't exactly in the place that I was looking for. I did figure that out months later, but where I was extremely close to this little Bigfoot hotspot. So once I got there, I pull in on this dirt road, and I turn around so I'm kind of nose out, so that if I want to leave in a hurry and not have to deal with any people that I don't know or anything, I can hop in my vehicle and get on up to the road and pull out and leave. So I got parked after I turned around. I'm nose out, and I decided to run a few pieces of paranormal equipment. I ran a K2 meter. I even set up a REM pod on the outside of the vehicle, just kind of as an alarm. I don't do the ghost hunting thing. I don't try to reach out and contact spirits and stuff like that. That's not in my wheelhouse. I know how to do it. I'm familiar with it, but I don't do it because it's not something that I want to play with. I think when you go to playing with spirits and things like that, you could be setting yourself up for a heartache, and I just don't do that. But I was basically using it kind of as an alarm system, so that if something in the paranormal realm decided to come up and check me out and see what's going on, it might act as an alarm system. So I was running that, and like I say, I had a K2 meter, and I wasn't getting any results with that. But what I would do is this. I would walk up to the road, which again, not even 25 yards away from where I parked my SUV. I'd walk up, and I would look to my right, and now I've got a camcorder. I'm recording with my camcorder. And what I'm looking and hoping for is maybe to have a Bigfoot or something run across the road, and I'm able to see it and catch it. So I look to my right, and there's nothing going on. So then I look to my left, And I repeated this probably 3 or 4 more times. Well, again, it was quiet. There really wasn't no activity that I could discern going on, taking place. So I figured I'll pack it in and go home. So I decided I'll walk to the road one more time. I'll give it one more shot and see if I see anything. So I walked to the road. First thing, I look to my right. There's nothing down there, no activity, nothing moving. So then I look to my left. And when I look to my left, I get the shock of my life. Probably 150 yards down the road, sitting square dab in the middle of the road, is this huge black box, this huge black cube. Now, I've got the camcorder going, and I'm talking to the camcorder, you know, just making what I would hope to maybe have something exciting happen, turn it into a cool YouTube video. Well, when I turned to my left and I saw this black thing down there, the human mind being what it is, when you see something that's not normal, when you see something that's just not right, your mind reaches out and tries to put it in a box. You try to rationalize what it is that you're looking at, and that's only natural, and that's what we as humans do, and it's what we as humans should do. So the first thing that goes through my mind is, I've got somebody in a big, huge black vehicle heading my way. They're fixing to come down the road where I'm at. And initially, I wasn't really overly worried about that because, again, my SUV was right there within quick distance of getting into, so I wasn't really overly worried. But, you know, I'm filming and I catch this thing, which in the lens it's teeny tiny. I tried to do a screen grab and all I got was like a little black dot, but at least it did catch whatever this thing was. It shows that something was there. But as I'm talking to the camera, I make a comment that well, it looks like somebody's coming down the road. So I'm gonna go ahead and head back to my vehicle. And this is exactly what I did. So I didn't run. I didn't get in no great big hurry, but I kind of trotted towards my vehicle. And as I'm trotting toward the SUV, my mind starts clearing. It starts to kind of focus, and I start to realize something is really wrong here. The back of my neck kind of goes to tingling, and everybody tells me, and I guess I would have to agree with them, that I'm an empath, that I have that ability to sense and realize and pick up on things that maybe somebody else might miss or overlook or whatever. So I'm starting to think to myself, this is not right. Something is off here. So I get to my vehicle, I throw my gear on the front seat, and mind you, this is happening very quickly. I get to my vehicle in just a matter of seconds, and I get my keys in the ignition, and I ease up to the road, and I'm expecting at this point to see a big black vehicle coming towards me, easing down the road toward me, or maybe easing away. And when I look to my left to where this big black object was, it's gone. Totally gone. It's completely disappeared. But now something else happened as I was easing up to the road, and that's why I talk about the empath thing. I didn't hear a voice. I didn't hear an audible sound. But something came up in my head, in my mind, and this something said, you just saw something you're not supposed to see. And when I got up to the road and I looked left and this thing is completely gone, the hair on the back of my neck stands straight up. And I am, at this point, I'm not afraid to say it, but I was scared. I was afraid. I just felt something go down my spine that just told me this is wrong. You did just see something you probably weren't supposed to see. And I'm still running the camcorder because at this point, I've got to go back to get home. I've got to go back where this thing was. I've got to pass right through where this thing was. And I'm not comfortable with that situation. I'm not digging that at all. So I continue to talk to the camera. I continue to film. And looking back on it and listening to and watching that now, I realize just how shook up I really was. I was pretty shook up at seeing this thing because as I got to the road and I got ready to pull out and head towards the station to check out, again, where this thing was, I realized a handful of things very quickly. And this made me even more nervous and shook up. I realized that I didn't see a windshield on this thing. I didn't see a hood on this thing. I didn't see a grill. I didn't see the front of a vehicle, a truck. I then realized I didn't see tires. I didn't see wheels on this thing. I realized this was not a pickup truck heading my way. I didn't hear the sound of wheels on gravel, crunching gravel. Because again, this thing was way closer than what the camera lens showed. And again, I'm very uncomfortable by this point. And I'm thinking back to, at the time, this most recent episode of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, where Travis and the team were sitting at a picnic table, you know, just kind of chewing the fat, talking, and they saw this box-shaped, this oblong-shaped, gold-colored thing a few yards away from them, like it was watching them, like it was this some type of technological device, you know, eavesdropping on them. And they saw this thing. And I'm sitting here wondering and thinking, did I just see something similar? Did I see some type of technology that was fixing to do something right there in the middle of the road, and maybe it realized, they, whoever, that, hey, there's somebody that's close, and maybe we need to vacate the area. I've got all this going through my head. But again, I wasn't terrified. I wasn't, freaking out. And I knew that I had to do something on the way out to verify what this was or what it wasn't. Now, as I said earlier, coming in, there were no tire tracks. And as I would look behind me in my rear view mirror, the only tracks that I could see were mine, the ones that I was leaving. When I look down the road, I'm seeing the same thing. I'm only seeing my tire tracks. There's no other tire tracks. Now, there's little places, campgrounds, driveways, there's little places where you can turn off to the left and the right. There's not many. And as I eased up to each turnoff, I would roll my window down and I would look and check and see if there were tire tracks coming in or going out. I was looking for a vehicle. Nothing. Every single one of these spots, no tires, no tracks, no vehicle, nothing. I inspected every single one of them. The only tracks that was in front of me was the tracks that I put down heading toward where I parked at. There were no other vehicles moving around in the area at that time. Nothing. Nobody. This was like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning on a sunshiny day. Perfect visibility. I could hear, extremely well. And there was just nothing there. If it was a vehicle, I feel like I would have either A, caught up to it, or B, I would have seen where it turned off at. And I would have either seen it parked somewhere, or I would have seen the tire marks where it turned, or where it turned onto and got onto the road where I saw it. And there was none of that. There was absolutely none of that. And I just felt I didn't feel safe. Everything inside of me was telling me this is wrong. Whatever told me that you saw something that you weren't supposed to see, I was in teetotal 100% agreement that that's exactly what happened. I did see something I wasn't supposed to see. So I got to the check-in and out station. I checked out. And when I got outside the station, I felt better. I felt safer. I didn't feel like I was in bad shape at all. Again, the weather was perfect. I mean, it was perfectly sunny and clear and sunshine and all that. It was it was a beautiful day. And this was in broad daylight. So this thing, again, it appeared with no sound. It made no sound. And again, it was not a pickup truck. It was not a sport utility vehicle. It was not an ATV. It was not, a camper. It wasn't a piece of farm equipment. It wasn't a hunter moving like a duck blind or a small portable building from point A to point B. That's what it wasn't. And now we're left with the question of, what was it? The thing that my first impression, along with that initial feeling, that emotion, that voice in my head that said, you just saw something you weren't supposed to see. This thing felt like technology. It felt like a piece of machinery. It felt it felt like some type of, that's all I can say. It felt like a piece of machinery. It felt like a technological piece of machinery. That was my first impression, my initial feeling, that this was some type of device, some type of interdimensional device that suddenly appeared there in that national forest for reasons unknown. And I have to thank God above that I wasn't no closer to it than what I was, if I'm correct in my theory. Because if this was some type of UAP or UFO, I like UFO better. If it was a portal that was opened or trying to open or fixing to open, I know that I did not want to be anywhere close to it. I didn't want to be anywhere near something like that. because people that have had encounters with UFOs, that have gotten close, not all, mind you. Now there have been a lot of episodes where people have gotten close to UFOs, and had nothing happen. They've walked under them. They've been close proximity. Nothing happened. But there have been just as many instances where people have gotten close to UFOs, and they've ended badly. People have been burned. They've been exposed to radiation. They've gotten sick. When you look at Skinwalker Ranch, the Sherman family at times were dealing with orbs, these blue orbs, and they lost some of their dogs after the dogs went chasing these blue orbs. The dogs started hollering and screaming in agony, and they found what they thought to be their remains the next day. In the new book, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, the Calm Kelleher and the other writers talk about the investigation into these blue orbs, where a father and daughter are driving down the highway. They see this light off in the distance, and all of a sudden this light makes a beeline for their vehicle is traveling down the highway, and it's this blue orb. The blue orb flies into the vehicle, flies into the father's body, exits, and goes shooting out the side of the vehicle right there in front of the daughter, who is absolutely terrified. They're both terrified. And within days, the father is fighting for his life. He is sick to the point of death. And he had a good, clean bill of health before this event happened. So I would tell anybody, if you see a UFO that's low or on the ground, or if you see these orbs, or you see what may be a portal, do not approach it. Don't get close to it. There's a really good book out there called The Meadow Project, I believe is the name of it, by Trey Hudson. And they detail encounters with cube-shaped portals that would just appear in this area in which they were researching. They even claim to have had somebody walk into one of these things. I can't say they did. I can't say they didn't. I wasn't there. But whether it was intentional or accidental, it's certainly not something that I would recommend to you, the viewer, or anybody else that's into crypto hunting or research or UFOs or something like that. I would absolutely get the other way, because it's not going to end well. So to kind of go ahead and get this thing headed toward wrapping up, what do I feel that this thing was? Again, I feel like I witnessed the appearance of a piece of technology, some type of technological device that came in from another dimension. What it was doing there, what its purpose was, I don't know. Whether it was a drone, whether it was something performing some type of recon mission, whether it was fixing to open up a portal, I don't know. I didn't see anything go in it. I didn't see anything come out of it. I didn't have time. So, could it have been a UFO? Sure. I mean, that's possible. It could have been a landed UFO. Again, no sound, nothing. Just it's just there. Could it have been something that our government was testing? I would say maybe. I don't think so. I wouldn't lean that way, because there was nobody operating it. There were no people pulling it or towing it, or nobody standing around it. So I don't think it would be something that our government would have. Um, it certainly wasn't the weather. Wasn't something, caused by uh, the weather conditions. Again, in my opinion, I feel like a I saw a 8 foot by 8 foot huge black box, black cube, sitting there in the middle of the road, blocking, taking up just about the whole road. That was a device of interdimensional origin. That's my theory. That is my hypothesis. I will say this in closing. I do not lean towards the extraterrestrial hypothesis. I don't. I lean towards the interdimensional hypothesis. I'm a Christian, so being a Christian, I realize that there are other realms and places where spiritual entities, good and bad, reside, and those beings can come in and they can go. And was that what this was? I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. But I think that it probably come from one of those realms, one of those dimensions. And again, I would strongly advise anyone that if they saw or witnessed something like this, not to check that out, or to get close to it. The book that I saw, again, I think the Meadow Project is the name of it, by Trey Hudson. It's a really good book, and they talk again about these cube-shaped things that they saw out in the middle of the woods, out in the middle of the forest, and that's where I saw this thing. So this book is really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would recommend it. They did some things off in there that I wouldn't recommend doing, but to each their own. Again, I don't go hunting and looking for spirits, and I try to steer clear of that. I'm prepared for it. If I encounter it, if I have to deal with it, I'm prepared to do so. But that's not what I want to do. Primarily, my interest and goals these days is more so on the cryptid side of things. But I realized a long time ago I had to be prepared for whatever you bump into and whatever happens, because just because you're going looking for Bigfoot doesn't mean you're not going to bump into what I bumped into. I've encountered demonic entities. I've residual hauntings. I've seen UFOs. In addition to cryptid activity. So you have to be prepared, and that's why I study and I dig and I research, and I take all this information that I've exposed myself to make me a better investigator and a better researcher, and I investigate and look into things as a Christian. That's the way that I go about it, and I do that for several reasons. And in closing, you're not going to hear about things like this, of course, in the mainstream media. Although the recent ATIP videos and the UFO stuff from that did get a lot of press and airtime, and a lot of TV shows and documentaries talking about it. The 3 videos, of course, from the Department of Defense. But the other thing that kind of troubles me and bothers me, and why I'm doing what I'm doing, is you're not going to hear about this in your churches. And that's kind of sad, because we as parishioners and people that go to church and have attended church, we're not being told about this stuff. And like I say, it's worrisome. So that's why I do what I do, and it's kind of my calling. And until God tells me not to do it, that's what I'm going to do. So, in closing, that's my story about the black cube. Again, I can't say exactly what it was. I just don't know. But the story. My story is true. It really happened. 100% real. 100% happened. And I just kind of wanted to do a short but thorough deep dive on this thing. And I've done a couple of. Well, I know I've done one video about it, and I wrote a blog. But this was something that was very profound. Like I say, seeing the Bigfoot out there and hearing all the wood knocks and the whoops and the tree crashes that I've heard, it just tells me that this particular spot's a very, very active and hot area. So, if you have encountered anything like this, if you know of someone who has, especially if you're a hunter or a fisherman, if you've encountered things like this, or if you've encountered Bigfoot or Dogman or any other unknown, not normal type situations in areas like this while you're hunting, fishing, or on your property, please contact me. The contact information will be at the end of this video. My website, my email address, and the YouTube channel. It's all there at the end of the video. So please reach out, and please know that if you need help, you want somebody to talk to, I'm here to talk. I'm here to try to help. I do my absolute best to help you understand what's going on with you if you're encountering things like this. So please consider reaching out. And if you don't want your name or any of that information out in the public, I give you my word, it will be kept in strict confidence. So I would love to hear from you, and reach out and let me know if you have encountered something like this, or if you know of someone who has. So I'm going to sign off for this little deep dive. There'll be more to come. We'll be talking about other topics and other things that are out there that I've investigated and researched and done, and got lots of things that we can do deep dives on. And we'll be talking about things that I personally have not experienced, but other topics. So I'm going to sign off. I hope you enjoy this video. Please hit the like and subscribe button. And until the next encounter, until the next adventure, this is Marcus signing out, saying catch you later.